In this exercise, we're going to be discussing creating swept features. Swept features are a very simple tool, but to me, I consider them an advanced feature technique. So that's the reason I didn't put them with the basic sketch features in the last chapter. I think these are, along with lofts, are a little bit more complicated and should wait until this chapter for this exercise. Let's get started and see what it takes to create a swept feature. First off, you need two unconsumed sketches. One that houses your profile, which is simply a closed profile, and one that houses the path. Path doesn't have to be closed, but it could be. And we'll take a look at an object that has a closed path here in a minute. With the sweep, we activate the sweep command. Inventor automatically recognizes a closed profile anytime you have a closed profile. So now all I have to do is select my path. So now you can see I have a pretty standard, simple shape here. If I change it to parallel, what happens is it holds this sketch parallel to the original one, and then goes long, goes up parallel, stays parallel, goes back to parallel here. And what ends up happening is you end up with a little bit of a thin spot in your part. You change it to go to path, it holds it perpendicular to the path, so you end up with an even thickness. This is going to be more realistic for things like wires and flexible materials. Anytime you're going to have something that you're wanting to maintain its thickness. The parallel, I have seen it used where you do have an object that does do things like this, but most of the time you're going to do with the path command. Hit OK, so we get our first object. If you move the end of part down here, I have a couple more sketches for you. This time I can do the sweep, select my path. See, that's just a straight, kind of boring looking shape there. What I can do is I could say guide rail. If I select this helix, you see what I end up getting. I end up getting this twisted drill bit looking thing. Hit OK here. So now I have this nice twisted shape. Where I've ran into this a lot is I had somebody that created decorative wrought iron for things. And so you'd have kind of this twisted shape in the middle, and then you'd have straight and straight at each end. And they actually would twist the metal around. Any kind of drill bit, anything like that where you're going to have a twisted surface. You can get kind of creative and get some very decorative type things with that. Let's take a look at this object over here. The creating sweeps 2. We're going to look at some closed paths. So first off, to create a sweep, we need two unconsumed sketches. So to start with, I'm going to make a plane. I'm going to say right here on this edge, perpendicular to that, I'm going to say create a 2D sketch. Say F7 to slice my graphics. I'm going to project my cut edges. Turn that plane off just so I can see. I'm going to come out here. I'm going to draw kind of a simple shape here. And I'm going to constrain it. Make sure I get all my little edges here. Say this equals to this. Start adding some dimensions in here. 1 millimeter. Make this 3. You know what? Let's make this 2 millimeters. Dimension from here to here. Full 2 millimeters. This will make 7.5. This will make 10. So we should end up with a shape that looks something like this. We say finish. I'm going to create another 2D sketch right on top here. Because that projected the profile on it, I don't necessarily need to do anything with that. So I hit sweep. Select, hey, I just want this. And for my path, I pick that outside edge. Hit OK. So now I end up with something that looks like this. So I'm going to say, okay, now I've decided I want to add a gasket to the inside here. So if I look at my sketch here, it's based on this cut edge, based on this plane. I can say, create a new sketch on that exact same plane. F7, project my cut edges. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say, okay, this comes over. Arcs up just a little bit, angles out, Make sure it's tangent here. I'm going to dimension this. So this is going to be 6.5. This will be 1.5 millimeters, 2.5 here. Make this collinear. We lock everything down. We get the good black telling us it's a completed sketch, basically. Gonna go to sweep. That's gonna be my profile. This could be my path. But you know what? I don't want to create geometry. I already have geometry there. In this situation, I can actually cut with the sweep. Okay. So now I have a groove that I can actually put a gasket in there and do like a double seal. So you just create two sketches, one with a path and one with a profile. Make sure that the profile is always closed, and then you follow along. It's kind of choose your own adventure. The one other option, if I come back over here and look at this first swept, for example, I can put a taper into it. If you want to get some kind of interesting looking shape there. Notice on the path and guide rail, I cannot. I do have profile scaling. What that means is how is it going to handle the guide rail? You want it to go in the X and Y or just the X or none? Basically, if this helix was to get further away, it would stretch it further away. And say, no, don't do that. Just follow the basic shape of it. And it'll follow along and give me my drill bit shape there. So some pretty interesting tools, some fun stuff to play with. See what you can do with it and see how much fun you can have with the sweep command. Once again, try to get creative. Think of a lot of your wire, any kind of wire features or anything like that you'll create with the sweep command. Whenever I say wire, I think of structural wire. Inventor does have a routed systems when you're actually adding electrical wiring to a part, but I deal a lot of times with store fixtures and things like that that are actually made up of structural wire, basically tubing or solid wire to create different shapes and objects that you'll see in a store. So you can use anything like that. You can use sweep to create that wire shape, but try to get creative with it. Think of how you can apply it in your situation and enjoy.